Welkom bij de podcast Facilitair. Mijn naam is Gerhard van Eager People en met deze podcast willen wij van Eager People jou graag inspireren met mooie verhalen uit het facilitaire vakgebied. In deze aflevering kun je luisteren naar een interview dat is opgenomen op het World Workplace Event dat plaatsvond in Amsterdam 20, 21 en 22 maart van 2019. Dit event werd georganiseerd door IFMA en natuurlijk onze eigen beroepsvereniging Facility Management Nederland, afgekort FMN. We waren daar als Eager People present met onze eigen vintage Volkswagenbus die we hadden ingericht als podcaststudio. In deze podcaststudio deden we interviews met facility professionals van over de hele wereld. Je zult bij dit interview dus iets meer achtergrond horen dan je normaal gewend bent bij een interview. Maar de verhalen zijn er niet minder om. Martin, welcome to the podcast. Can you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hello everyone, my name is Martin. I'm a product manager at Airthings.
Cool. And what are we going to talk about?
I'm very excited today to talk about the Airthings indoor air quality monitoring solutions and our healthy building solution, which is our special suite of hardware and software for facility managers and building owners to allow you to optimize the indoor air quality and tenant experience in your buildings.
So you're a software engineer by education?
I am a philosopher with sociology by education.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so we can shake hands.
We can shake hands?
Cool, man. Thanks. So how old are you?
I'm 30. Just turned 30.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Norway.
Norway.
Norwegian Irish.
Can you say some nice sentences in Norwegian or something about the podcast?
In Norwegian about this podcast. Det veldig koselig å sitte I en Volkswagen campervogn med deg og prate om podcasting, om teknologi og facility management.
Cool. And sounds familiar in a way.
It does, yeah. Same with me when I hear Dutch.
Yeah, cool. And why are you here exactly on this event? We are here on a World Workplace event. So what brings you to this place?
So I'm here with the company I work for. It's called Airthings. And we're here in the last 6 months, we've launched our commercial solution. It's called the Healthy Building Solution. So we're using IFMA to launch and make ourselves more known because we were a consumer product.
And where did it start exactly?
So Airthings started about 10 years ago in CERN in Switzerland. We're 3 Norwegian scientists, very geeky professors. We're working with radioactive gases. And they identified that they wanted to do something that had a wider impact than just within academia. And they recognized that one of the challenges we had is that radon gas is one of the biggest causes of lung cancer in the world for non-smokers. But the way of measuring radon in homes and houses and buildings is a very adequate, very old school and manual process.
Yeah.
Have you ever measured radon before?
Not me, but my wife, and this is quite funny. She works at the Dutch Institute for Public Health.
Okay, yeah.
She's an expert in radiation.
Okay.
So she did a big research on natural occurring radiation in homes. And then they send these boxes out to thousands of people and schools and hospitals and etc. And they had to put this carton box with some measuring equipment in there, and they had to hang it somewhere. And then after 1 or 2 months, they had to send it back to her, and then they started analyzing all the data.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of work. I don't know what the findings were exactly, but radiation, that sounds kind of scary. I mean, what's going on there? Is it scary? Is it...
So radon gas is a naturally occurring gas that comes from the ground. It's all around us in the atmosphere. Yeah. And it's in the ground. There is small amounts of uranium in every rock and essentially the ground all around the world.
But is it a gas or a radiation? Or
It's
both?
a gas. So what happens? So it's released from the ground when this uranium decays into a radon gas. So it's a noble, odorless, invisible gas.
Yeah.
But what happens when it becomes dangerous when the concentration builds up. So it's not dangerous in small quantities. So there's radon in the air here now, like any other component in the air. But in Nordic houses, because of more environmental standards and eco housing and plus housing, we're making our houses airtight.
Yeah.
So actually, when the radon gas comes in, it gets stuck, and the concentration builds up, and then when you breathe it in, what happens is that the radon gas decays again, and if you remember your physics lessons, every time there's a decay, there's energy being released.
Yeah.
So you have heard of alpha particles, gamma rays, beta rays. So what radon gas releases is alpha rays, which are very, they're not the most dangerous. So actually a sheet of paper will stop one. But if you already have the radon gas in your lungs when this happens, and the alpha particle shoots out, it could damage your DNA and then trigger kind of the end result will be a cancer cell being developed.
Yeah.
So I'm going very technical now.
No, I'm still following. But
you're still following.
Yeah.
I see your eyes are slowly glazing. Yeah.
But I do get the logic. So the radon gas is building up because you make the homes airtight. And then there's an effect. But this would be a long-term effect.
So it's
a risk.
Long-term exposure is what causes it.
Yeah.
So in the European Union, every year, 20,000 deaths are related to radon gas exposure.
That's quite serious, right?
And if we compare that to the number of deaths in home fires or a house fire, which is about 400, you see it's a lot. No, 4,000, sorry.
It's still
it's a huge,
5 times as much.
It's a 5 times difference in lethality.
Yeah.
And then the interesting thing is we all expect that every building should have a fire detector. Yet we don't have the same expectation or even the awareness that every building really should have a radon detector as well.
And then these professors, are they still around or?
They're still running the company today, yep.
And they decided not to make a radon detector, which could have been a business model as well, but they chose a different way to deal with this problem.
So the traditional way of measuring radon is with what we call in Norwegian is sporfilm. So essentially a photographic film inside a plastic cup that you leave in a basement or in the building that you want to measure for 2-3 months. And every time an alpha particle goes through, it creates a little hole in this film. So you leave it for 2-3 months, you send it to the lab, and they will manually count the holes. So what they developed from the research in CERN was a digital way of measuring radon. So it actually gives you a continuous and historical measurement of the radon concentration in the air.
This is the product.
This is so having we've sold hundreds of thousands of the radon measuring units. Our biggest market is in the Northern Europe and the US.
This is where the problems are.
Biggest problems and biggest awareness. I think the biggest challenge we've had is just the awareness of the risk that radon poses. And then a couple of years ago, we realized actually having built up this expertise on measuring the dangers in the air we breathe, there's actually a bigger opportunity here because air, the 20,000 breaths we all take every day, they contain a lot more than just oxygen. And it's all those other components that we breathe in that can have a detrimental effect on our health, on our well-being and our cognitive abilities. So it's giving people the insight and understanding of actually the air they breathe, what impact it has on their bodies, and also the insights to make actions to improve their well-being. So the current device that we're launching, that we have with it here at IFMA, is the Airthings Wave Plus.
It looks very cool. It looks like a Google Home device, something like that.
It probably has the shape of a typical smoke detector. It's a round device with a nice texture pattern on the front, and it lights when you wave your hand in front of it. Thus, the name, the wave. It'll show you. It'll light up and give you like a nice visual indicator of the air quality in our space. And if I wave now, what color do you see?
Green,
So we're in the good.
We're good.
So that means that this air is optimized for our health and our cognitive abilities. So
Cool.
really, we should have good thoughts now.
Nice. So who made this? I mean, who did the design? Because it looks really cool. I mean, it's well thought through. It's a team effort, or is there some genius behind it, or?
I think I'd definitely say it's a team effort, and as a product manager,
Yeah.
where you're responsible for developing this product in terms of both the hardware, the firmware, and the software, it's really satisfying to be working with the whole team in Oslo. So we have a team of 25 engineers sitting in Oslo, doing everything from the plastic design, doing the mechanics of the layout.
Yeah.
We're doing the electronics within it, and the software that runs it. So everything is developed in Oslo.
Yeah. And are you guys known for? Because it makes me think of IKEA now, which is from Sweden originally.
Sweden,
so, but the Nordic design, is that a thing, or?
It's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Can't you see how beautiful this device
I mean,
is?
it's thrilling. I mean,
I think the most, and particularly coming now into, so as I said, we've had 10 years experience within primarily consumer markets.
Yeah.
And we're now entering into kind of property management and facility management and giving them access to this kind of data. And having that history of consumer focused, so making sure that it's easy to use, that it's sexy looking, that the user experience is satisfying, and thinking about even simple things in terms of installation. So all I need to do to install this on the wall, it's radio and battery operated. Yeah. It's just a magnet on the wall.
Oh, nice.
And that's really it's a completely new reality for people used to these professional solutions already in buildings today.
Yeah. So what are your target areas? You said in the Nordics you have this radon problems. Also in America, certain areas, or Canada, what?
It's primarily the northern part of, so probably half if you cut the US in half and upwards. But really what I'm excited about here today, our history is from radon, but our future lies in air. And our mission as a company is to visualize the air you breathe. Yeah. And it's really giving us understanding the full picture of all the components that are in the air that you breathe, and giving the people that are responsible for the buildings the insight to optimize it for the occupants' well-being, our health, and our cognitive abilities. Yeah. The sensors in this device is, of course, we have the radon sensor, but we also have temperature and humidity. We have CO2, which is the kind of the used up air that we breathe out. Yeah. We have pressure, which relative air pressure, and there's also VOC, which is volatile organic compounds, or the chemicals in the air, which often come from paints, furniture, all the synthetic materials we bring into the building, and can also give us quite strong health effects. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the term fine dust? Or
I do, yes.
Is it the same, or is it even something different?
So fine dust are technically is called particulate matter. Yeah. So it can be measured in different sizes, from down to micrometers. Yeah. Or micrograms really per concentration in the air. Our next generation device will have particulate matter as well.
Yeah, because that's a big issue in where I'm from, is Utrecht, which is the fourth city of the Netherlands. But also in other big cities, this is really a major issue with the diesel engines and public transportation, and also building sites, which also produce a lot of dust in the air. But this would have to be like an outdoor device then, if you want to measure this thing.
Well, you'd say so, right? So I think as we see now, increasing awareness of globally that the outdoor air quality is deteriorating, and also scientifically we're seeing the huge impact it's having on our health. Yeah. But the air outside will eventually come inside, right? Yeah. And that's why providing the data through our platform, allowing building owners to control their buildings and knowing the quality of the air that they take in and the quality of the air that they're circulating, and knowing how to optimize that is really what we enable with our solution. Yeah. So it's primarily an indoor air quality monitoring.
Well, you have to focus somewhere as well. I mean, So how big are you guys exactly?
So we're 50 employees in Airthings, based in our headquarters in Oslo, where all the engineering happening. And then we have a sales and service center in Chicago in the US, and also in Quebec in Canada.
So it doesn't really sound very big, 50.
I think.
Well, what's the story? I mean, What can you do with such a group?
So 50 people might not sound like a lot for a company with global reach like ourselves. As I said, we've sold several 100,000 of these devices already.
Really?
And the exciting thing working in software and technology is that it enables a small group of people to do huge things at a global scale. Yeah. Just take the example of WhatsApp. They were sold for how many $1 billion to Google?
Yeah.
And at the time of that transaction, there were less than 40 people working there.
Really? Wow. And what always fascinates me is how to frame, well, not how to frame your company, but are you a products company or software company, or how do you guys perceive yourself?
That's an excellent question. So the way we describe ourselves is we're a hardware-enabled software company. So really, the magic lies in the software, but to get access to the data that we need to power these solutions, we require hardware. Yeah. So the hardware is just an enabler for us to do really exciting things within our software.
Yeah.
So hardware-enabled software company.
And what about the... this is not necessarily my subject, but everybody knows... Well, a lot of people know Google Home. Mm-hmm. A lot of people know Alexa. I think it's by Amazon. These big companies, they put a device in your home, and then you can start ordering stuff.
Yeah.
Do you see a connection there? The Internet of Things, these kind of big trends?
So we integrate with both Amazon Alexa and we integrate with Google Home.
Really?
So you can access. So you could ask, if you have a Google Home at home and you have an Airthings device, you can say, "Hey Google, how's my air quality?"
Really?
And it'll give you a response in terms of how your air is.
Get out and save yourself. So what do you do if you get a red light from the machine? Is there like a protocol?
So it depends a little bit on what parameters, right? Different mitigating actions you can do to improve your air quality.
Open a window or...
So open the window might be one solution, but then our platform, our software also has data about outdoor air quality. So actually, if the outdoor air is still worse, you don't want to open the window. Yeah. Then you're more likely you want to change something with your ventilation system, your HVAC system. Because the filters that we have on ventilation system are really, really efficient these days. At least for fine dust and particles. Yeah. So with radon, it's really about reducing the concentration of radon gas in your indoor air. Yeah. And that could you can stop the radon coming into the home to begin with, and often there will be cracks or holes in your basement where it's seeping up, or you can improve the ventilation to reduce the concentration. So putting in a radon fan that could be controlled by the Airthings Way Plus. Yeah. If you have a red light, that could be related to high CO2 levels. Yeah. And we know high CO2 has a major impact on our cognitive abilities. I think you've probably been in a badly ventilated meeting room. Yeah, several times. And after 2 hours, everyone is feeling drowsy and low. Yeah. Actually, at that point, your cognitive abilities has been reduced down to probably 50 to 60% as before you start the meeting. Yeah. So if you're coming into a meeting room, making a major decision, and you spend 2 hours discussing, at the end of that meeting, you are less capable of making that decision than in the beginning. And you probably shouldn't be making that decision.
That's terrible. Well,
is that a sexy enough angle for you?
Very. Well, with Eager People, we are in a building with several companies, and there are some shared meeting rooms. Yeah. There's one that's really terrible. We have only air for 1 hour. Yeah. So the great thing about that is that we always finish in 1 hour. Yeah. So it gives you short meetings.
It's a bit similar to the Jeff Bezos two pizzas rule in Amazon. You can only have a meeting with enough people where 2 pizzas will feed them. Because if you invite too many people, it just becomes inefficient. Yeah. The same way sets a natural limit to how long the meeting should last.
Yeah. Very nice. So you're going into the broader subject of air quality. Mm-hmm. Are there places where this is especially a big issue? Because you said the radon issues are mostly in certain countries, but air quality it's
a global problem.
Yeah, and is there specific sectors like schools or hospitals or companies or?
So the WHO, they estimate that 80% of people, they live in environments where the air quality, outdoor air quality, is above the recommended health levels. So essentially the majority of the people in the world, we've deteriorated our air, so it's having a health impact. But that's the outdoor air, and that eventually will come indoors, so you need to be able to control the air that comes in. But there are other things that are not related to outdoor air, which would be, for example, in the school environment. If the ventilation within a classroom isn't optimized, by the end of the day, the CO2 levels might be so high that the learning abilities of the student will be severely deteriorated. The Danish government, they made a study, I think it was 2 years ago, and they found that more than 70% of Danish classrooms repeatedly exceeded the CO2 levels above 1,200 parts per million, which is already where you start getting drowsy and tired during the day.
It's interesting because as human beings, if we don't see a problem, we don't perceive it. So with this technology, you can actually make it very visible.
And awareness is what drives action.
Yeah, exactly. But then also you have to get results. So people will be willing to invest in this technology if they're sure that certain benefits will come to them. So did you do any case study, or do you have some favorite clients that you interview about this subject, or some results that you're proud of as a company?
So we worked with some major retailers in Norway, and they've seen at the bottom. So we're in a facility managers fair, right?
Yeah.
And what everyone on this, like, facility management is a cost center for any company, and it's something you want to reduce. Yeah. So really, where our solution gets interesting in that point, we can talk about well-being, we can talk about health, and we can talk about productivity. Yeah. But the CFO, the chief financial officer, will come in and say, "Okay, fine, that's nice. Those are great things to have, and we all understand the value. But where's the money?" And really, where the money and the cost savings come in is how you control your building and getting granular data across your building, across all of these air parameters that allow you to fine-tune your ventilation system and your heating system to really optimize the usage. Yeah. A lot of the building standards we have today, like the LED or BREEAM, they're all about energy efficiency and cost reduction in terms of energy usage. Yeah. But what our solution allows you to do is reduce your energy at the same time ensuring that your indoor air quality is maintained. So you're not like the quickest way to save any energy is just to cut off all your ventilation and put your heating down to zero. But at the same time, you want to have tenant satisfaction high. You want to have the air quality to be within the recommended levels. But if you don't have the data, you don't know how you can optimize your ventilation at the same time. So that's where we had some great examples in Norway, where we managed to maintain the tenant satisfaction in terms of the perceived well-being and the perceived air quality, but at the same time actually dramatically reduce the energy consumed to both ventilation and heating.
I'm wondering, how do you focus in the company? Do you have like a system in place to keep everybody aligned to a certain strategy? Because there are so many opportunities out there, but you cannot chase them all at once.
Do you know something? That's a big challenge, huge challenge. And I know as an entrepreneur myself, in the company I was running before, that was one of the pitfalls that I know. So how do you make a structure? Or how do you prioritize opportunities based on the cost and the effort involved, right? And the impact it will have. Internally, so as a product manager, so very specifically, it's really about, it's two numbers, right? It's what's our cost, and our cost is related to development time, it's related to third-party components we have to buy. Okay, so that gives us a relative metric of cost, and we kind of measure that on a scale from 0 to 10. And then we have what's the opportunity, how many customers will it impact, how much revenue do you think we could drive, which is very difficult to estimate. But we can at least give it a relative scale compared to the other things, again from 0 to 10. And then what you want to be doing is, okay, let's take all the sweet quadrant, right, is the ones that are very low cost and high opportunity, and that's where you start.
That's smart.
So that gives you a little framework to think about prioritization, but it's not universally within the company. I think what our CEO has done very well is thinking about, okay, do we have a mission statement or a vision statement that helps us know where we should be focusing, at least in the near term. And I said earlier, as a company, our mission is to visualize the air we breathe. So it doesn't give us a particular focus on radon gas, but it's one thing that we have to visualize. Yeah. And you said yourself, all of these components are invisible to us, and it's something we don't think about because they are invisible. So what are the ways that we can make people increase awareness and visualize them in ways? So it gives us some way of kind of deciding what we should be focusing on, what we shouldn't be focusing on a more strategic level. But as a product manager, it's more tactical level. It's like, what specific features should we be doing? Yeah.
Are you familiar with the company Measurement? If you ever encountered them?
That sounds interesting.
It's a Dutch-based company.
Yeah.
And it was actually started by Vincent Lenoble.
Okay.
And he's a well-known guy here in the Dutch community. And his company's name is Measurement.
Yeah. And
they have a very simple mission statement: we measure. So they measure all over the world.
Yeah.
And I'm not an insider on their company, but I could imagine that if you measure, you get data. And then would be if I was him, I would be seduced to move into other branches, like, okay, we will be a data company, and now we will be a search engine, and now we will be this and that. And so if you keep changing your company, that's actually how you ruin your own company. This is one of my biggest lessons in entrepreneurship for over the past 10 years. Don't change too much. So get a great focus and stick with it. And what I like in your answer is that you also think about how to optimize revenue because of the possibilities it offers. So if you make money, you can grow. If you make only a little tiny amount of money, you're always stuck in this same circle. You spend a little and then you earn a little, and you spend a little and you earn a little. But if you really want to develop into a global company, you have to have a really strong economic engine, so a real good money motor or whatever you call it. Anyways, I'm happy to connect you with this, Vincent.
Very interesting.
I think that because they measure all over the world, they work for CBRE, Jones, Lang LaSalle.
What do they measure? Do they have sensors, or do they just have the data? They have their own sensors as well.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Cool.
They measure the occupants level or
like utilization degree.
Yeah, utilization degree of spaces.
Yeah. So whether it's you might have 100 desks, but they're actually only used 50% of the time. So you actually need 100 desks.
Yeah. So I'll hook you up with them.
And why are they not here today?
I'm not sure. Maybe because they're so successful, they are really growing hard. Yeah. Well, maybe you heard about the flywheel, which is a concept also by
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. Well, actually, Jeff Bezos, he got it from Jim Collins, which was the author of Good to Great, who was interviewed by Tim Ferriss. Yeah. We were referring to that before. And the flywheel component, or the flywheel concept, there's another underlying concept that's Jim Collins calls it the hedgehog concept. And he says if you want to build a company that's successful, you have to have extreme amount of passion. So you have to be very passionate about something. You have to be very good at something, very competent. And you have to have an economic motor. So if you're passionate and you're good, but you're not making any money, you're doomed, you will be stuck forever. And so these are three very simple pillars of growth. But back to your business, how fast can it go? I mean,
so we're actually one of the Financial Times in Europe. We're listed in amongst the top, I think it's 200-300 fastest growing companies in Europe at the moment. So last year we just closed 2018 with shy of 15 million euros revenue. Wow. The year before we were half of that. So we've been doubling now for the last 5 years.
Very cool. So what about the professors? They're still there?
They are still there, yeah.
How did they develop from being scientists to entrepreneurs?
I think this is a very interesting conversation, right? At what point do founders step back and realize that maybe they're not the best suited to bring the company over to a global level? So 4 or 5 years ago, they got on board new investors, and they actually got a CEO to step in. So now they're still C-levels, kind of own their own departments, but there's a new CEO that's come from externally, that's running and growing and kind of coming up with this ambition of a new company. And that's the strategy we're following now. Yeah. So I think as an entrepreneur, and having worked at the different startups and having had my startup myself, I think that's very worthy that people recognize actually we need someone that has different skill sets than what we currently have and what we're currently able to grow ourselves. Like our internal growth is not going fast enough than the internal growth of the company requires. So then you take in a CEO to bring you to that next level.
Yeah, and he or she is from...
It's from Norway as well, and worked for Texas Instruments beforehand. Yeah. And that's the strategy we're following now.
Did it change the culture or the atmosphere?
So I've only been in Airthings for less than a year, and it's 4 years ago this change would happen. So I'm sure I think when that CEO joined the company, there were 5-6 employees. I could be wrong, but it was low tens, right? Yeah. And today we're at 50, and by the end of the year we'll be at least 20 more.
So you have any stock or?
So all the employees in the company also have some share options. Yes.
So you could be like a multi-millionaire in 10 years, or do you ever think about it?
I think it's probably it's definitely a motivation to be part of something that could be bigger.
So I'm wondering. So if you're a facility manager and you're listening to the podcast, you're in Holland, you're in the Netherlands. How does it work? I mean, suppose you have an issue with your air quality, or you're interested and you think, okay, we need to do something about the air quality. What are the steps to go forward? Yeah. So you have some measurement going on, and then you order your product, or how does it work?
Having spoken to a lot of facility managers and people that operate building, I know that more than 50% of complaints that a facility manager receives is relating to indoor air quality. It's a huge concern. I think the starting point on any journey when it comes to the environment within an office building or in a public space is awareness and understanding and pinpointing where the problem is. Having the companies I work with, the complaints they get is often as concrete as the air is bad. Yeah. And that does not give you any insight for what to do next. Yeah. So really what we provide with our solution is giving you the insight to pinpoint the problem and communicate to the end client what actually, when they say bad air in quotation marks, actually entails. So from our platform, we have an indoor air quality report that you can generate with one click. So it takes the historical data for a time period during the working hours, and it generates an analysis of your indoor air quality and tells you exactly what all the parameters relate to, how they affect, what symptoms you'll get in terms of well-being, and also what you should focus on. Yeah. In terms of installation, now I'm really, really proud of how the installation of our product works. All our products are battery operated, 2 years battery life and minimum, and they operate over radio frequency. So actually there's no cabling required, no retrofitting of a building. All you have to do is either double-sided tape or one screw into the wall. There's a central hub that we call it, a gateway, that communicates to all the wave plus over radio frequency, and we use a very low frequency, which means that they go through walls and they go through floors very efficiently. So you can get up to 100 meters indoor range with one hub. So if you have a 5-6 story office building, you need 1 or 2 hubs for 50 wave plus within that building.
Yeah. So what about the cost? I mean, or what about the investment? What would be the pricing range, or like an estimate
for the pricing
per meter or per item? Or
I think more and more, as we've seen in the software world, it's not about upfront license. You spend a huge amount of capital investment to buy access to software, but rather you expect it to be a subscription, and you subscribe to the insight and you subscribe to the data. Yeah. We don't sell the device themselves. It's a monthly subscription that you pay per unit you install, and that gives you unlimited access to the data. It gives you the data transfer is included in that. So we set up a network locally within your building, and you have access to both our API for effortless integrations to other systems and a dashboard where you can do your own analysis.
Yeah.
And I think you should talk to the sales guy, but the pricing is, we're looking at 10 to 15 euros a month per unit to have this installed, depending on the volume and the unit.
So what's the amount of devices you need per square meter, square feet?
I think ideally, so within an office environment, because of the walls and setup, you should definitely one in every meeting room.
Yeah.
And then if you have an open landscape, it might like one per 100 to 150 square meters might be a sufficient installation. If it's depends a little bit on how the air flows and kind of if there are certain bubbles of air climate.
So if you're a facility manager and you put these devices in your entire building, this might mean you pay like 300-400 a month, maybe 500, maybe 1,000 a month. What did you get out of it? So what are you essentially buying then?
So first of all, in terms of for your tenants, it gives you an insurance and a quick response to any indoor air quality problem.
Very specifically per space.
So if you get any complaints or any concerns from any tenants, it's a 5-minute job for you to generate a PDF report, analysis of that space over the last period that you can send straight out to your tenant and say, okay, we're on top of this. We've done the analysis already. Here's the historical graph and data from your space in a language and in a graphical way that is very approachable for someone that's not technical. Secondly, you get the historical data to do your analysis yourself to try and pinpoint, is there a pattern or where's the concern is? And you could use that data then to either manually configure your ventilation system and then even see the results straight away within our dashboard, or programmatically do it by integrating our sensor values into the control points within your ventilation system.
So maybe some final questions. Which companies are afraid of you guys and girls?
I think the Schneiders, the Siemens, the Honeywells, the Johnson Controls should definitely be paying attention. Another challenge I see, and I see this frustration with a lot of facility managers, is that the system that's already installed in the building, they're not able to get that data out of the system. There's proprietary walls, proprietary protocols that just makes it impossible. If you want to get a historical graph of any of the existing sensors, like maybe temperature or humidity in that building, you have to pay a consultant to authorize from that provider to do the work within it, to maybe give you access to some of the data. I think the future of property management and the system that manages our properties is openness to data and interoperability of data. We really need to make sure that all the systems within the building are willing to share and make their data accessible through APIs. And it's only then when we get a platform for innovation to happen.
So if you're a decision maker or facility manager or you're a construction company making new buildings, what's an easy way to get in touch with you guys?
So at the moment, we've launched this product 9 months ago, and we have a very nice entry-level solution for anyone wanting to get an experience with the Airthings indoor air quality monitoring, and it's called the Airthings Business Pilot Kit. So it gives you 10 Wave Plus sensing units and a hub to communicate with all of them for, I think it's 2,400 euros. And it really gives you a kickstart with the experience, and it involves a personalized follow-up from someone in my team to really get you set up and integrate and see the possibilities within your portfolio. So I think that's a good starting point. Go to airthings.com and go to our business solution site, and you'll see information about the pilot kit.
Very cool. Thank you so much for talking to me. Okay, let's go have a bite.
Let's have a bite. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Dankjewel voor het luisteren naar dit interview dat we opnamen op World Workplace in Amsterdam in 2019. Deze podcast werd je aangeboden door Eager People. Ben je op zoek naar gedreven medewerkers voor facilitaire functies op operationeel, tactisch of strategisch niveau? Dan denken we graag met je mee. Ook als je bestaande medewerkers of teams meer eager wilt maken, kunnen we jou van dienst zijn. En natuurlijk ook als je op zoek bent naar een nieuwe uitdaging of een nieuwe interimopdracht. Ik ben benieuwd wat je van deze aflevering vond. Heb je feedback voor ons? Zijn er onderwerpen die je graag zou willen terughoren? Of heb je een tip wie we eens zouden moeten interviewen? Of misschien wil je zelf wel jouw verhaal vertellen. Wat je reactie ook is, stuur ons gerust even een berichtje via podcast@eagerpeople.nl. Bedankt voor het luisteren en graag tot een volgende keer.